In this video, we'll cover the subskills and the natures that are best for the skill specialist Pokemon. We will highlight some of the best Pokemon overall that are skill specialists, and in general paint a clear picture of what a skill specialist should look like when it comes to these subskills and the nature and so on. One of the points that I keep emphasizing in my videos is that you should to a large extent keep the Pokemon in its specialty. So if it is a skill specialist, it should be really focused on the skills. For the berry Pokemon, it is all about berries, and they are quite one-dimensional as a whole. Ingredient Pokemon are a little bit more complicated because in some cases you do want the berries after all, and then you want to find some sort of middle way with the sub-skills. With the skill specialists, they are overall easier to analyze. Like you can say, wow, this is a good skill specialist, but knowing if the Pokemon itself is worthwhile can be quite tricky because the skill specialist for the most part is a support Pokemon, and at that point you need it to really pull its own weight to be worthwhile, because if not, you could just run a berry Pokemon or an ingredient Pokemon and be better off. So the main example in this video will be Gardevoir. Gardevoir is an S tier Pokemon for sure. It has the energy for everyone main skill. This is incredibly powerful. I have covered healer Pokemon in general in its own video, so I can recommend you that one. And the difference in this video is I'll specifically talk about Gardevoir a lot more because it is one of the best Pokemon in the whole game, and the big reason for it is the main skill is super strong. It heals every Pokemon on the team a flat rate, and as you gain the main skill level up on the Gardevoir, it's just going to be super strong. And I don't mean the sub skill, like as you level it up, the main skill is just gonna get really strong. It's also very fast, and it has a high skill rate. This percentage can be a little bit hard to digest at some points because the different skills have different utility connected to it. So for example, if we compare it to a Sylveon, for example, you can see the skill rate goes down to 4%. So overall, the Gardevoir is faster. But then if you look at a Pokemon like Umbreon, which is also a skill specialist, it's got 14%. But the skill is not all that useful, really, because the skill rate is so tremendously high that it's just gonna proc every time you tap it. And we can have a look at a Pokemon such as Golduck, which has the Charge Strength S. It's got a ridiculous skill rate of almost 13%. And it's somewhat slow though, so it kind of makes up for it in a little bit of an interesting way. We can see Ampharos. Ampharos is 4.7. That's pretty decent. And if we take a look at Vaporeon, has around 6%. In comparison, a lot of berry Pokemon will have like 1 to 2%, maybe 3%. A lot of the ingredient specialists too. So you can really see the difference here. Now, if we go back to the Gardevoir, we can talk a little bit about the sub-skills. The main sub-skill that you are looking for in the skill specialist is the skill trigger M. This sub-skill is a multiplier of the 4%. So you don't like add these together to get 40%. That would be really ridiculous. But the 4.2% here is 36% bigger. So that becomes like a little bit over 5%. And then there is an S version of this sub-skill. You have skill trigger S, which is another 18%. So in total, you can probably boost this up to like 6%. And then we will go comprehensively through all the natures in the last part of this video. But for now, just to have something there, we're going to put the careful nature. This will give another 20% boost. So that's going to push like 7, 8, maybe 9% I don't have the math in my head completely there, but it's pretty extensive. Another thing to consider with these skill specialists in general is to which extent they are an S tier skill specialist or an S tier Pokemon in general, or if it's an A tier or below. For most S tier Pokemon, I would say you don't want the skill level up M sub skill. This is a very powerful sub skill, and we will cover some examples of when this is super useful. For a Pokemon such as Gardevoir, which is one of the best Pokemon in the whole game, it kind of clogs up the sub skills for just other things. For example, you would much rather, in this first spot, have the berry finding. Berry finding on a lot of skill specialists can be a big deal because you find one berry each time. You mostly rely on the main skill to do its job in terms of production. And so you really need the skills to do a lot of work to justify not using a berry specialist or an ingredient Pokemon. And the berry finding gives +1 to the berry drop, which is a 100% boost. It's not exactly 100% because you also find ingredients sometimes, but a lot of the skill Pokemon will have a low ingredient rate to begin with. And then if you find, like, for the most part, you want to optimize for the skill chance up on the nature, but if you somehow find a careful berry finding skill specialist, that's going to be quite powerful for you. And after you've encountered the same Pokemon and caught it 10 times, that first sub skill is going to be guaranteed a gold sub skill. And then there are 7 different ones. We can quickly go through them. Since this is a skill specialist video, it's not particularly interesting, but just so that you are familiar with some of these, we have the Sleep EXP bonus. It can be useful, but for the most part, I would avoid it. We have the helping bonus. This can be a great alternative to the berry finding. Like, if most of these other things line up, helping bonus is strong. So if you have main skill chance up nature, you got skill trigger M, and maybe a helping speed M or another skill trigger S at some point, then helping bonus is perfectly fine. Then we have the energy recovery bonus. This is a flat like multiplier to the energy healed in the sleep sessions. It doesn't impact energy for everyone, and for the most part, if you have a 100 sleep score, it's not going to do much for you. Maybe a little bit in the nap sessions, but then again, if you run a healer, you're going to be at 100% for the most part anyway. We have Dream Shard bonus, not good. Research EXP bonus, not good. And then we have the skill level. Wait, that was almost it. Let's see. Skill level up M. Here's the thing. You do want to preserve the main skill seeds for your S tier and a few of your A tier skill specialists. And Gardevoir, as we've mentioned, is such a good Pokemon where the skill level up M kind of clogs the space for either berry finding or the helping bonus. So to an extent, you don't really want the skill level up too much. On the Gardevoir, it being a late game really good Pokemon, you might as well just look a little bit extra and see if you can find a better one. But then the question becomes, for the A tier Pokemon, you have the Glaceons with a cooking power up S. You also have Flareon. These Pokemon could make use of the berry finding quite a bit, because then you do get the double berries, and you do have the favored berry at Taupe Hollow and Snowdrop Tundra. And so there are things to consider here, especially with the evolutions. You probably want to keep on the grind, but like, I would say maybe a Pokemon like Togekiss. Maybe that's another bad example since it has favored berry on Cyan Beach, but Togekiss is like a B tier Pokemon in my book. And so not wasting the main skill seeds on it is going to be quite helpful. I did just cover Lucario in the Dream Shard Magnet video. This is a good combo. You don't want to waste your main skill seeds on the Lucario. And if I just sneak peek right over here, I can give myself a little bit of help here. The Dene, definitely another Pokemon where the main skill level up M makes a big difference. The only problem is the Dene is quite costly to acquire, and so you can quickly just waste a lot of biscuits to get it to level 10, and then you're not even lucky. So as you've seen in some of my videos, when I find a Dene, I'm just happy if I get the main skill chance up nature and the skill trigger S or M. Preferably S that I can either upgrade or just a straight up M in one of these first spots, and I'm just calling it. I'm good. And so for the most part, we can also just wait around a little bit for my tier list videos. The tricky part here is there's such a disparity between these S tier skill specialists and just the bottom of the barrel skill Pokemon that's not even useful. So it's just a bit hard to make like a good value judgment here on what you should really go for. Maybe Golduck could be a potential Pokemon where skill level up M makes a lot of sense. But then again, the reason here is the skill rate is so high to begin with that you kind of just want to have as high main skill level as possible. Maybe you even try to go for that berry finding to have some value in this berry, but it is kind of slow. So there's just a lot of nuance to consider with the skill specialist Pokemon. And yeah, the split here is the S tier Pokemon. You definitely do not want the skill level up M unless everything just lines up for you. For the most part, you'll look for helping bonus or the berry finding. The berry finding in my book is way better. And then the A tier is a bit of a mix up. You have a lot of evolutions, and so to an extent, you kind of just have to strike a balance of like what you find and how long you're interested to hunt them. And then once you get past B tier below, those Pokemon are so lackluster overall that they may not even be worthwhile putting resources into. Maybe the Slowking is a potential Pokemon you can consider if you somehow find a skill level up M, skill trigger M, double tail Slowking. Maybe. I don't really know. The other thing there could be potentially, we're just really looking at the low tier Pokemon here, in my opinion, but we're just covering skill specialists in general. Arcanine, the extra helpful S, has a niche use case. Arcanine is pretty fast. It has a low ingredient rate and a decent skill rate. So overall, you probably want berry finding over that skill level up S, or the M rather. But then again, Arcanine is a fairly low tier Pokemon for the most part, so you don't really want to waste the main skill seeds either. So you're kind of stuck in between, kind of wanting both berry finding and the skill level up M to kind of make it work. And it being a skill specialist, you do want some of these sub skills as well. So we're gonna put back up Gardevoir, and then we're gonna cover some of these natures that are good for the main skill Pokemon. So I think we can quickly cover these. The Calm Nature is not to be recommended for the most part. In certain cases, it can make sense. For example, if you find the Raikou. Raikou does have the speed to where it's not going to be too impacted by the minus 10% if you have the plus 20 in the main skill. But Raikou overall is a tricky Pokemon. You don't get a lot of chances to really hunt the Raikou. Maybe at best during the Raikou event, you ended up with 2 or 3, maybe 4 Raikou. For me, I'm like at maybe 2, you know? And the first one was already set, so we'll see what happens in the future, but it is what it is. Another nature that is actually good is the gentle nature. This is one of the best natures on the main skill Pokemon, maybe the best overall. If not for the careful. I would personally prefer the careful on most Pokemon, not the Slowking for example, because you want those tails. But then again, some of these Pokemon, like the Raikou, definitely do not want the sassy nature with that steep EXP curve. But all those natures are main skill chance up. And then as always, the speed up natures are quite useful. The adamant could be good too for a lot of the skill specialists. Naughty is not good. You don't want it. It's gonna decrease your main skill chance. Not good. And then we have the brave nature, also not good on Raikou, but for a decent chunk of the skill specialists, it could be a good idea. Now, for Raikou and certain other really steep EXP curve Pokemon, then maybe you can look for a Jolly. A Jolly Raikou could be really strong. And then you can also peek a look here at, well, we already mentioned Naughty. Not a good nature on the skill specialists. Lax nature, also pretty detrimental. Rash, this is quite good for the ingredient specialists, but not for the main skill specialists. And then Naive, I would say this one probably doesn't make sense on any Pokemon, no matter what, even if it has a steep curve, so try to avoid it. Yeah, I think that was pretty much the natures too. So, hope this video overall was helpful. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below and I'll get back to you. You can also give a like to this video if you want to help me out here. And I'll see you in another video. Thank you for watching.